Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Week I Review. My name is really kind of sad right now because today I want to talk about a game I have long considered among my favorites of all time. Playdead's seminal puzzle platformer, Limbo. Limbo was released in 2010 alongside other visually striking, mechanically interesting indie platformers, Super Meat Boy and VVVVVV. This had a profound impact on me as a player. Ever since, those have been my favorite types of games, and I have pretentiously proclaimed such at every opportunity. As a result, I was hype AF for the release of Playdead's follow-up, Inside, 6 years later. I bought it, got stuck about 4 minutes in, and then gave up for literally years. It's pretty pathetic, and I have thought about this pretty pathetic thing every 4 to 6 months since, but never really felt the impetus to do anything about it. That is, until the release of the official Kotaku review of New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe a few weeks back, which came from the mind of Tim Rogers. Rogers has been my favorite games critic since 2013, when Brendan Koch, the author of the Spec Ops: The Line 5 stars, critical analysis Killing is Harmless 4.5 stars, pointed me to Rogers' 18,000-word not positive review of BioShock Infinite 4 stars. He and I don't always agree. For example, BioShock Infinite and The Last of Us 2 stars. Yeah, that's right. The Last of Us, a really interesting movie with a stellar opening but otherwise underwhelming interactive experience tacked on. Oddly enough, my specific gripes are not entirely unlike the one Rogers has with Infinite, though in a way that is much more specific and irritating to other people. I'll link to a few thousand words I wrote about it 5 years ago, 1,100 of which are about something I probably paraphrased but made me so incomprehensibly angry that I went on a literally 17-minute rant about it to my girlfriend when I asked her to look this script over, and she was like, "Why didn't you like The Last of Us?" And also, I'm not going to read your article about it. I'll spare you the specifics, but what it boils down to is that I was led to believe it was the best and fully believe it should have been the best, but it was not, in fact, the best, and I will never forgive it for that. I'm looking forward to the sequel, but I will die on this hill. Sorry about that. I have incredible respect for Tim Rogers' opinions. When it comes to discussions about game feel and the fundamentals of functional mechanics, I genuinely don't think there is anyone who games criticisms better. So I was heartbroken when about 3/4 of the way through that review, he called out Limbo. In the text, it's an offhand remark. In the video itself, he briefly pauses to say he literally hates it and also spoils the ending. Kind of. My initial response was shock and revulsion, followed by depression, anger, rejection, and then curiosity. I mean, it had been so long since I played Limbo that maybe I was wrong. But before I could really think about that, it was time to finally freaking finish Inside. So I picked up another copy that I could more easily play from my couch, i.e. not on PC, and sat down with it. I did not move until the credits rolled. It was a work night. Oops. But I was a changed man. I immediately figured out that thing that I was stuck on all those years ago, got mad at myself retroactively as I am wont to do, and then just didn't stop again. I was genuinely blown away. Despite having even less text than Limbo, there's no button prompt to start the game. It tells a cohesive and coherent narrative that digs into themes of humanity and control. A kid who freed himself from zombification escapes at first towards freedom, but ultimately back to the people who believed they owned him. It goes to some seriously unexpected places, with the last 30 minutes in particular being some of the most genuinely bonkers I have ever played in a game that wasn't just going for genuinely bonkers. It is amazing, really. So a few days later, I booted up Limbo, fully expecting to love it every bit as much as I did back in 2010. I didn't. I still liked it, of course, or so I keep telling myself, but playing it after Inside and with Tim Rogers' entire NSMBUD review in mind is kind of rough. At times, Limbo is reminiscent of the Rage classic I Wanna Be the Guy, but without the meta hilarity. I subscribe to the theory of game design that a preternaturally good player should be able to reach the credits of a game on their first try without dying once. Because if the logic and rules are consistently applied, someone with a flawless grasp of the mechanics will be able to make it through. I Wanna Be the Guy, quote unquote, subverts your expectations right from the start by changing the way that apples fall, both based on the rules of the game as you think that they have been set out in the opening moments, and the real world, since apples don't typically fall up. But that's the point. That's the whole game, and I respect its commitment to making you angry at every moment. The sweeter the feeling of accomplishment when you finally pass an obstacle, or so some might have you believe. That isn't Limbo's shtick, though. The completion of a puzzle tends to come not with a sense of pride, but relief. I can pinpoint the exact moment where my devotion to Limbo started to waver. You are running underneath some heavy machinery, two identical contraptions. There are triggers on the floor. Step in the wrong spot, and you will be crushed. There is no indication that this is the case until one comes down on you, though you can reasonably guess it from the presentation. As someone who has played a video game before, I would expect that at the start, you have to jump over the low ground onto the center high ground. And at first, I was right. Jump, land on the higher platform, jump to the other side, you're set. Second one, though, landing on the center triggers the machine. Thinking about intent, this kind of makes sense. A general platformer putting two of the same types of jump in a row, particularly one with such serious consequences, would be par for the course. But not this particular puzzle platformer. But having that thought requires you to be outside of the game experience, trying to read the developer's mind instead of the actual experience they built. Your player sense tingles, you jump to the center a second time, and you die. And then you groan or shout at the screen and do it again, correctly. But from then on, if you hadn't known already, that this game hates you. If you want to be kind in return, maybe chalk it up to the narrative. It is, after all, Limbo, literally. It's confusing and disorienting. You can't get out of Limbo by following rules. You do so by getting into philosophical discussions with very smart, mostly Greeks, as part of your epic quest to woo a girl you've been obsessed with since you were a child, even though you only met her twice and she's married to someone else. So, get over it, dude? Do you remember that God of War-like Dante's Inferno game? I don't know if it's possible to miss the point harder than that thing did. Though maybe I just came close. Anyways, you spend a lot of time in Limbo waiting. About a third of that is waiting for something so you can proceed. Most of that on this one fucking puzzle, but generally is about elevators and elevator likes. Another third is waiting for the game to kill you because you didn't realize that you needed to do one thing before triggering another, and it's too late now. The third is a hybrid, where you are redoing one of those initial waiting periods because you didn't realize that there was something back in the puzzle ready to kill you until you finally saw the exit and a big heavy ball from a minute ago lands on your head. At which point you realize, the puzzle was actually just about avoiding the ball the whole time. And how could you have known? Even if it didn't hit you, that was almost certainly not because you knew it was coming, but you just happened to follow the necessary pattern. All of this results in the crushing realization that the design philosophy behind Limbo is bad. And Playdead must have realized it too, because nothing that I just said applies to Inside. Inside is damn near perfect, taking everything that worked in Limbo and wildly improving everything else. But I find it impossible to take the final logical step and just say that Limbo is not, in the year CE 2019, a good, worthwhile game. That the love for it is not only misplaced now, but may have been misplaced from the start. I can't do that because it was so significant to me for so long. It helped to change the way I think about games and what I want from games and what I look for in games. How do you accept that you don't like a thing that mattered that much? It still has its moments. All these years later, individual moments are as intense and powerful as they ever were, but so what? I actually had trouble keeping going in between those moments because there were other things I could have been doing and would rather have been doing. Ugh. I thought a lot about the title for this video. Back when I conceived of it as a review of Inside after my wildly positive reaction to that, I thought maybe it would be a look at the evolution of Playdead's style. I knew they were different, but believed them equivalent. And I thought this video might be about how they are both perfect. And as I played, it became about how they were, perfect in their own way. And then one wasn't perfect anymore. 6.0 out of 10. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, that is great. If not, I'm sorry. If you want to see more, there are more on the channel, or, you could smash that subscribe button. I hope to see you next week.